I want to show you exactly how I began to improve on an almost daily basis. And it all began with a mistake that I've been making. It's that I believed progress is something that you simply switch on, and afterwards, you're just smooth sailing from there. But the thing is that that's not how it works. And that's when I came to the realization that if I instead do very small changes every now and again, then slowly a compound effect will result such that I will get these huge effects over the long run. So to show you how I did that and how you can do it as well, here are some few steps to follow. We first have to set a central goal by which we filter all of our decisions. The reason for that is very simple, and it's presented very well in the example of Alice in Wonderland. The exchange goes pretty much like this. Would you tell me please which way I ought to go? That depends a good deal on where you want to get. I don't much care. Then it doesn't matter much which way you go. And what is the underlying lesson behind this is that when you don't have any direction, any point of reference, then it's almost impossible to choose where you should go. Imagine it this way. If you're picking a job, should you pick A or B? Well, that depends very much on what your priorities are. If you want more money, well, then you're probably going to choose A. But if you want more satisfaction from the job itself, well, perhaps B is the better answer. But the thing is that most of us never really specify exactly what we want. And as a result, when we come to decisions that we have to make, what camera to buy, what action to take next, which university to go to, we're very stumped. We have no place to go because we don't know where we want to get. So the solution to that is to create a precise definition for where you want to go. In my case, my central goal, and in fact I'd call it my central life goal, is to maximize the total happiness for myself and for others around me. If you create something like that, you immediately simplify all of your decisions, because instead of thinking, wow, should I choose job A or job B? Well, I don't really know which points I enjoy about one or the other better. So you're confused. But otherwise, when you do have a goal, for example, your goal is to be more satisfied, well, in that case, job B is a much better choice. So to summarize this point, to simplify your progress and give you a sense of purpose for what you're doing, create a precise life or central goal for whatever work or activities you're doing, such that when you make a decision, you know whether it's going towards your goal or whether it's going against it. Alright, now that we've got a goal, we can actually get to getting it. So the first part we need to consider in doing so is, what are our priorities? And I think that what's called the Pareto principle will help us here a lot, because it states that about 20% of the work we do results in 80% of the outcomes we get from it. So if you consider what are the aspects of my life which are the 20% that are so necessary, that are so crucial, well then if you focus on them, you can work less and get pretty much the same results in so much less time. In particular, what I'd like us to consider is, what is the single most important thing necessary to achieve my goal? Let me give you an example of how this could work. Now, for a long time, I was doing YouTube very ineffectively. Sometimes it'd take me a month to create a video. So I asked myself this question precisely: what is the single most important thing to create an effective YouTube channel? And the answer I got to was, first of all, quantity is essential. By creating different videos all the time and producing more and more and more, you give yourself the opportunity to constantly test new ideas. And I wasn't giving myself that opportunity. So when I defined this essential element, I realized, well, wow, I have to spend much less on videos. In your case, it might be somewhat different. For example, if you lack time, you might say, what is the single most important or the single most crucial element that either prevents me from getting time or that is necessary to have more time? In your case, it might be playing video games for 5 hours every day instead of doing what you want to do after school or work. It could be the way you begin homework. For example, you could start with the easiest problems, and when you're getting to the hard ones, your mind is already fried and you don't have the initiative to finish it. So think about all these inefficiencies in your life, all these essential elements or essential elements that you need to remove, and then Find the one which is really underpinning all of your problems, because there usually is one or two like it. And when you do that, you're going to have a lot more time and a lot more ability to achieve the goal you've set. All right, so that's the second point. To create greater focus and to answer the question, what is the single most important thing I need to achieve or I need to avoid? An interesting quote by Einstein goes like this: "Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results." And I find it so true, because in many areas of our life, what we do is we fixate on one idea and then we stick with it until the very end, even if it doesn't bring us any results whatsoever. And that is a result of what's called the sunk cost fallacy. The typical argument for doing something like this is the following: I spend so much time on this. If I do something else, I'm gonna get to nothing. I'm gonna waste this time. But the thing is that it's possible to get out of this rut, to get out of this behavior such that you get to constantly new solutions. And one of the greatest illustrations of that is Thomas Edison, who created about 10,000 prototypes for a light bulb before actually getting to a solution that worked. So take the same approach to your own work. When you see a solution that simply does not work, or a solution that doesn't bring you the result that you wanted anymore, instead of thinking, oh, I'll waste all this time if I do something else, think, there are so many more ways I could do this. This one is clearly not effective, so let's try another one. That's what all the greatest companies do. That's what Apple, Google, Amazon, all of them do that. It's called the lean startup methodology in their case, but there are many ways of testing, iterating, and improving that don't involve nesting yourself with one idea and sticking to it no matter what. So to review, don't fixate on one idea, but instead constantly try to find new approaches to your problems that you couldn't have imagined otherwise. So that's the third point. One of the most stressful experiences for me is when I have a task that I have to do or that is important to do, but I have no clear timeline of when to do it. But this is actually a very well-known effect called the zagonic effect, which, given that it's so well known, actually has a very simple solution. What it is to clearly write out or plan out exactly when you'll do the difficult problems that you're faced with constantly. So for example, what I do is I have a page in an app I like called Notion, where I simply write down every problem I feel I have. I do this every evening, so I have a clear mind for bed, but the general idea is that you simply just write it down and you do it regularly so you don't pile up these problems in your mind. So, to justify to your brain that you're on top of your tasks, find a way to write them down and consistently go through them. In doing so, you'll eliminate the zagonic effect and you'll feel much more at ease and much less stress. And that's the fourth point. Now, the last problem we have to fix to consistently improve and actually progress is the fact that we constantly forget almost everything. There's even something called the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve, where a researcher directly mapped out how much we forget something after we've learned it. For example, after 1 hour, you forget about 50% of what you learned. Then after 1 day, about 70%. So as you can clearly see, there's a huge drop-off in how much we know after we've learned something. But thankfully, it's not that hard to fix this. And it's one of my most enjoyable lessons which I've ever learned. What I do is, for every book or every article or every video I watch, I apply at least one lesson from it. So for example, recently I read a book called Nonviolent Communication, and in it I got an absolutely extraordinary concept. It was that everyone, whenever we judge someone or socially ostracize them, what we're in fact doing is expressing our own unmet needs. So given that I didn't want to forget this fact, one habit that I applied was, whenever I hear someone saying a judgmental word or judgmental phrases, I try to translate them into what I believe is the need that they're not fulfilling. For example, when someone says, "You're lazy," what I think instead could be perhaps they're feeling overwhelmed by the tasks they have to do every day, and perhaps they'd like some more time for themselves. The point here is to notice these kind of little lessons that you can apply, these little tips that you can create within yourself, and to apply them consistently such that you're not beholden to the forgetting curve and you don't lose all the knowledge that you've gained in the day or the weeks that follow. What I find incredibly awesome about continual growth and development is that I always see a little bit of that behavior change, and I see as I'm progressing towards whatever goal I've set for myself. And then as I get closer to whatever ideal I consider to be valuable at that point, every now and again I get these fortunate chances to understand and get a few insights which I can share with others. So I hope that you found these insights particularly valuable and had as much fun learning about them as I did. And now I hope that you'll have as much fun using them.